Well, hello, boys and girls, and welcome to the Philadelphia Eagles, the defending NFC champions. That's how far we have made it. We are up to number 15 of 32 NFL team previews here on bet.nola.com, powered by the Dattitude Podcast, and I am your host, a happy Jim Derry, because I don't know if you know about the weather here in New Orleans or even care, but it was like 94 today instead of the regular 101. Jumping for joy. You know who's on fire? The Philadelphia Eagles have been on fire. They tore up the NFC East last year, going 14-3. Do we think they can do it again? Did you watch what I said about the Dallas Cowboys? All right, if you didn't, don't watch it yet. You can watch this one and then go back. If you already watched it, then spoiler alert, you probably know what I'm going to say. But that's okay. Watch it anyway. First of all, show of hands. If you've made it to this 15th of 32 team previews and you've watched every single one of these things, I want you to raise your hand, and then I want you to give yourself a little pat on the back. You're doing well. Only got 17 more of these to go after this one. I know you're getting sad, but the good news is that when they're over, the season will be starting. Today, the defending NFC champion Philadelphia Eagles. Will they be able to do it again? Coach Nick Sirianni in his third year, going from 9-8 to 14-3 in a trip to the Super Bowl, where kind of a controversial ending there. I thought they were the right calls. Some people didn't. You know, of course, I bet on the Chiefs, so I was a little biased. But anyway, Jalen Hurts and company are back to try and do this all over again. They have some good news for the Eagles and some bad news for the Eagles. Let's start with the good news. And the good news is Jalen Hurts, man, what a change. I mean, how did he do what he did? How do you go from being, maybe this guy will be good someday, to the fourth best quarterback in the NFL based off of quarterback ratings? And that's not really even including his 700 and some odd yards rushing. He became a star in this league. I mean, there's no question about it. 3,701 yards with 22 touchdowns in 15 regular season games. And the total was 760 rushing yards, by the way, with 13 touchdowns. He was fantasy football gold for sure. Will he be able to do it again? He lost Miles Sanders. Is that going to be a problem? Well, if you look at the screen and you see that he gained two running backs to go with him, he's got Rashad Penny from Seattle, but the one I like the most, and I think that's going to really kickstart this offense and help it, is DeAndre Swift. I think Swift is perfect. I think perfect for this offense. I really think he's going to fit in. And then, we didn't even mention the receivers there. I mean, A.J. Brown, who came over in a trade from Tennessee, and what a trade it ended up being. And, I say this about maybe 4 or 5 different receivers. There is an argument that can be made. I don't know if I would make it, but in fact, I wouldn't make it. But there is an argument that can be made that A.J. Brown was the best receiver in football last year. I know this. I wouldn't want to stop him once he caught the ball. I mean, that is a big dude. Between he and Devontae Smith, his partner, they combined to make 183 receptions for nearly 2,700 yards and 18 touchdowns last season. I mean, that's a big reason why Jalen Hurts was as good as he was, because he was able to throw to A.J. Brown and he was able to throw to Devontae Smith. Oh, yeah, and he also had a tight end named Dallas Goedert. It worked out pretty well for him. Let's just put it that way. But when you talk about this offense, the thing that you have to worry about going into this season, so we're going to start to kind of transition to the things that do worry me. They lost both of their coordinators, the Eagles did. And to me, I know that Nick Sirianni runs everything, and it's it shouldn't be that big of a deal. But whenever you lose a coordinator, it kind of is a big deal. When you lose both of them, to me, it's an even bigger deal. Shane Steichen on offense, he's on to Indianapolis, now the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. Jonathan Gannon on defense, now the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. I think both of those coaches, by the way, are going to be in the running to have the number 1 pick of the 2024 draft. But I digress. Going to have to build that chemistry, get that cohesiveness going right away. So I'm not as worried about the offense. We talk about all these offensive weapons. We just spent 3 minutes going through them all. or 4 minutes or however long it was. What worries me is in the defense. You see that number on the screen that they finished second? Well, they only finished second by 15 yards. 15 total yards all season long. They lost by 15 yards to San Francisco. So really, essentially almost tied for first. But they lost safety Marcus Epps, went to Las Vegas. They lost Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, went to Detroit out of the backfield. We talked about Hargrave going to San Francisco. Other key contributors, linebackers, TJ Edwards gone. Kaiser White's gone. When you lose that many players, it's got to be a problem. Let's get to the schedule because more good news for the Philadelphia Eagles. Look at it right off the bat, the 24th toughest schedule, which if my math is correct, that means it is the 8th or 9th easiest schedule. And they had an easy schedule last year. It's one of the reasons why they were able to go from 9-8 to 14-3. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Look, the Eagles were really good last year, but having that schedule that they had didn't hurt any. And it kind of starts the same way it started last year. Other than Minnesota, look at the first 5 games for this team. At New England, okay, you got a Minnesota on a Thursday night, which is tough enough. But at Tampa Bay on a Monday night, so a big break before Tampa Bay, that's a team that I expect to struggle. Washington, most likely going to struggle. We'll talk about them tomorrow. And at the Los Angeles Rams, we don't know what they're going to be. So there's a chance they can beat Minnesota. There's no reason to think that this Philadelphia Eagles team can't be 5-0 again. They jumped out to a hot start last year. Who knows? At the Jets on October the 15th in Week 6. And then after Miami and Washington, it definitely changes a little bit. So let's look at that. You're talking about 8 games, so you're almost halfway through the season when they get past Washington. Very good chance to me that this team is 7-1, 6-2 at worst. I mean, if this team is worse than 6-2, they're going to have real problems. And this middle part is brutal. Dallas, then you finally get your bye in Week 10. That's actually a good time to get a bye. But look at what's up next. At Kansas City, when you come off the bye on a Monday night, and then you get 6 days before you got to turn around and play Buffalo, and then San Francisco. The good news is they're both at home. Then you go to Dallas. You go to the West Coast at Seattle. That is as tough of a stretch as anyone's going to face. So as easy as the schedule is overall, because it is fairly easy overall, that is a brutal stretch. Even a good team could go 2-4 and it wouldn't be a surprise. So that's why I'm saying you got to get out to at least the 6-2 start, because if you go 6-2 and then you go 2-4, I can do the math. You're 8-6, which leads me to my prediction. And drum roll, please. What is our prediction and best bet for the Philadelphia Eagles? I think they're going 11-6. It's right around the number. If you want to play it, I easily think that this could be a 10-win team. It could be a 12-win team. I think they're more likely to win 10 or fewer than they are to win 12 or more. But I got them at 11-6 right now. Wouldn't surprise me now if they won 10 games. And honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if they won 9 games. Because if they don't get out of that first 6, again, they start out 3-3 or 4-2 and then lose to Miami and have a fluke loss to either Washington or Tampa Bay or New England. I mean, it could happen. I mean, I don't think this team is going to be nearly as good on defense as they have been. And that's the problem that I have. So it leads me to my best bet. Hear me out. I don't think the Eagles are going to miss the playoffs. I do think they're going to squeak in. I've already told you that I think Dallas is going to win the NFC East. But you're getting, to me, massive value on this to miss the playoffs bet at plus 340. Means if you bet $10 and the Eagles miss the playoffs, you're going to get $34 in return. Or really, if you bet $100 and they don't make the playoffs, you're going to get $340 back in return, plus the $100 that you bet. I just think it's great value. I think there's a better than a 3.4 to 1 chance that these Eagles don't make the playoffs. I think they're closer this year to that 9-8 team they were 2 years ago than they were the one last year, 14-3. I think that the offensive line could cause problems. I think they're I don't think they're the number 1 offensive line this year. I think they've had too many changes. They're already having a couple little injuries here and there, little nicks here and there that would worry me if I were an Eagles fan. I may be wrong, but I think it could be a weird year for the Philadelphia Eagles. So if you want to bet something with this team, my best bet is plus 340 to miss the playoffs. Wouldn't bet a ton on it, but I do like it. Tomorrow we will wrap up the division. The NFC East is done, and we are halfway done when we finish with the Washington Commanders on Friday. See you then.